Hello, people. It's your Ambassador again doing this thing. As usual, I just stumbled upon a couple of videos within the week. I want to give my opinion. I want to give your opinion. It's usually videos which are regards to Africa. That's my concern, my passion. So I want to just talk about them. This particular video, I think that some of them are old videos, but I just think that the African youth does not focus mostly on these things. We're watching trending videos about some reality show, some football game, and things like that. But I think some of these videos, I intentionally pick them up from place and then talk about them. And knowing that my channel is mostly a youth-focused channel, hopefully I can put in the face of some of the youth. So this particular video is Paul Kagame, who speaks against the risk profile for Africa.
The risk profile for Africa is deliberately exaggerated.
Yes.
To benefit those who, anyway, dictate the way things go.
Want favorable deals for themselves, basically.
Absolutely. So we have to be clear about that. And this fits into some of the topics that were discussed here when we were talking about whether African is at the table or is on the menu. And I think many times it is both.
So like, if you know what the risk profile is, it's most like assessing the risk of a place or a situation and then trying to make measures around it. But at times this can also be very counterproductive because at times you're carrying out a risk profile, but to be able to maybe engage with the situation or engage with a certain place or maybe invest in a place. But certain risk profiles might give such a negative image of a place where it discourages investment or it discourages the engagement which was the intention in the first place. So I think that's where Paul Kagame is coming from, saying that the risk profile given to Africa is too high. And I recall when I was studying out in Europe, people would be like, how do you guys manage in Africa with all the tigers and the lions? I'm like, bro, I've not seen a tiger, I've not seen a lion. How do you guys manage with all the war and hunger? I'm like, where I'm coming from, there is more food than you ever dream or even know, and there is so much abundance. It's true, every continent or every people have their bad spots or their weaknesses, same with Africa. But if that's the narrative we are pushing out there, then we cannot even change. We might have a higher rate of poverty depending on the criteria you guys use to judge some of this poverty. Because at times I also kick against some of the poverty index things, saying that you guys don't take into account our communal lifestyle, unmonetized factors. You just use your European or American context to come and judge our African situation, and it's telling a very wrong story. That being said, before I digress, when Paul Kagame talks about the African situation, he says Africans they should be on the table. So usually that refers to being part of the discussion, being a stakeholder and sitting and giving your opinion on that sort of situation. I think recently on LinkedIn I just commented on something where I was saying we're discussing African issues but there's no African on the table, which happens most of the time, and hence the solution might be creating a bigger problem because you don't really understand the problem in the first place, because you're not African and you're not living the problem. So that's where he comes with Africans being on the table. Africans on the menu was a funny one, but it's also very true, because at times it's almost like, okay, we might be on that table, but are we there as people to eat or are we there to be eaten? That's the question when he says, are we on the menu? Because at times you get the impression that people are just sharing up things in Africa. Okay, it might be some struggle between Russia and America, but is anybody actually fighting for the African interest? It's all about their interest, and then Africa is just cut in the middle. That's where Africa becomes the menu. Lots of cases, you see Africa just being the menu. I don't want to elaborate some of these things that might get too political. But when all of this is said, I usually come back to my Africans and saying, what do we intend to do as Africans? Be it being on the table or being the menu, what are we doing? If we are not happy about it, what do we want to do about it? That's the question. So I think, one, as Africans, maybe we should build our own tables. Recently, there was this summit where South Korea was inviting African presidents. Like, okay, America has invited us, Russia has invited us, France usually invites at least Africa, Russia has invited us, now South Koreans too. These are people who were more developed than them some years back. But all of a sudden, they've developed to the point where they are now inviting our African leaders to come and sit and then to teach them like class 1 children, and then tell them what they will do and put in place some of their policies. And that's just Africa being passed around like, I don't want to say what, but it's crazy. So I think Africans need to create our own tables, which we have our own interests at the center of these tables. I think also, even when we go to these tables, we should go with a clear-cut agenda. But usually we don't have these agendas. I've been privy to some back-end discussions that happen before some of these tables, and I had the impression like those we sent to those meetings are not even aware of the global trends and some of these strategic discussions that happen before some of these business or politicians come to meet us on those tables. They have been briefed by a business team or their business interests with regards to that country. They have like advisors and lobbyists and people who come with all the expert knowledge to give them exactly what to go and negotiate for their country. But in our country, it's not the same. You just go with a bunch of your, should I call them stooges, or people who support you, your brothers, and people who, you guys are just going for a vacation to go and enjoy the trip and receive money envelopes that will be given to you and you come back. But you don't know that you are putting in danger the lives and futures of 4 generations down the line when you take some of those debts, when you take some of those crappy / handicap policies and things. So I think we as Africans need to do better, and as usual, that's why I discuss this thing, because I want to build that critical mass which Africans need to start thinking. In every sense of the word, I'd say Africans need to start thinking. It might sound like a very simple thing, but it's a very complicated thing, and I think that's the first solution to all of our problems. We as Africans need to think. As usual, it's your boy Ambassador. I'm just trying to get you guys to like, share, comment, push it out there to your various tables, just so that we can get to build that critical mass, and that's how we change this continent. I'm out.
Just my opinion.